Welcome to Metro Talk. I'm Kent Shuffle. Thanks for being with us. Sam Stem, the general manager of WBGZ, is alongside. Welcome, Sam.
Hi, Kent.
And Jim Schrader, the publisher of the Telegraph, is here as well. Welcome, Jim.
Hi, guys.
Jim, the Illinois Lottery had record profits this past fiscal year. However, they were still $100 million short of what had been projected. Now, the private company that's managing the lottery would like to see some concessions since those profits came in lower than expected. Bottom line is, should we see concessions granted?
Well, a little back history here. Governor Quinn and the Brain Trust in Springfield decided a year or so ago that if we were to privatize the management of the Illinois Lottery, the state would ultimately make more money. So a group out of Chicago called North Star came in and put on their dog and pony show and glitz and glitter and promised that they could raise the state revenue to $825 million in the first year, which would have just blown the doors off of any records. As they are wont to do in Springfield, they were all enamored with this proposal and thought that was wonderful and signed on the dotted line. Shortly after all of the documents were signed, folks at North Star huddled around the conference table and went, oops, we overpromised here. We may have a problem. So they sent a letter to the state saying, you know that $825 million we told you we can get in the first year, you know that's not going to happen. We need to revise that down to 770. And as part of this agreement was if they hit their goals, they would get substantial bonuses or substantial performance bonuses. And from what I have seen, when they revised that number down from 825 million promised to 770 million promised, there was no discussion of changing the bonus incentive. It was just, okay, that would still be a record and everything is still wonderful. Well, come to find out, after their first year, they actually delivered about 700, like I wrote this down here, 726 million, which is still 36 million more than prior year when the state made 690 million, but $99 million short of their first promise that got them the contract, and $44 million shy of their second promise. However, they still want their incentives to the tune of about $119 million. That seems pretty substantial to me since they didn't deliver on either of their promises. And I guess, you know, when you really think about it, is if the state is still on the hook for that $119 million, now not only did we exceed prior year when the state managed it, we are down several $100 million, about $100 million to be exact, from where the state would have been had the state continued to control it. I think that's ridiculous. You come in and make a bunch of promises, you can't perform on your promises, but you still want the full boat of your rewards. Sam and I both have salespeople that are on commissions, and you don't pay them the same commission check if they miss their goal that they do if you make your goal. You maybe under-promise and over-deliver, but in this particular case, North Star overpromised, under-delivered, but still wants all of the gravy that went with it. I'm absolutely against it. I think that if the state goes ahead and rewards the non-performance, that we set a precedent that regardless of what they're able to generate, they're still going to be patted on the back and still rewarded handsomely for their performance. And again, to give them some kind of a performance bonus for increasing from 690 million to 726, okay, that I can understand. But if you take 119 million away from the delivered 726, you're down to 607 million, which is less than the state did prior year. So I don't think the concessions could be granted. And I think one more time, somebody should have paid attention to the fine print before they signed the contract.
Sam, should we see some concessions? North Star Lottery Group, management group for the lottery, is looking for some concessions since the profits for the lottery came in a little low. Should we see that happen?
In my view, no. There's a contract. They agreed to all of this ahead of time. And, if North Star didn't hit their projections, then, the contract rules. And I'm totally opposed to coming back after the fact and saying, oh, well, we didn't do what we said we were going to do, so we want to change the terms of our agreement because we still want to make our money and you not make yours. As Jim said, yes, we do both manage sales staffs, and sometimes, you'll promise a bonus for hitting a certain level of achievement. And it's probably happened to him, it's happened to me. Well, I came close. Well, I'm sorry, but here's what we agreed to. You hit this level, and this is what you're paid. You hit a lower level than that, and you're paid a lower amount. And we agreed to that before the fact, and that's what we're going to live by, and that's exactly what needs to happen here. If North Star had wanted some kind of concessions, if they fell short, they should have brought that up prior to the fact, not after the fact. And my fear is, however, knowing how the state government works, is somewhere along the line they'll cave. I suspect North Star feels like they've got a little leverage because if they were to pull out altogether, not renew the agreement or whatever, now, the state's on the hook. They have to go back and hire back all these people that had managed the lottery before, and they probably don't want to do that either. But the bottom line is, in business, you anticipate these things, you write it into the agreement, and then everybody lives by the agreement.
Now, if you went to your banker and said the radio station was close to making its payment, they'd say, well, not a problem, and give you more time, right?
Well, absolutely. It happens all the time.
And oh, by the way, I'll rebate part of it back to you, even though you missed the payment. That's okay.
Well, and if I get that rebate, then I might make next month's payment.
We need to take a break. We'll have more in a moment.
Hi, I'm Audrey Lucchese, and I'm from Alton, Illinois. I love music, and that's why I came to Lewis & Clark. It's been an amazing experience here at Lewis & Clark, working with students that are so talented, coming from all over the area, and they work so hard to follow their dreams. The music faculty at Lewis & Clark they're fantastic, and they're there every step of the way to push you to follow your dreams. One of the unique opportunities that I have had at Lewis & Clark is being able to record my own music with a fellow student here. Being able to record our music has opened doors for us in the music industry. My long-term goal is to finish here at Lewis & Clark and then to transfer to a four-year school and finish my degree in music performance. I would recommend Lewis & Clark to another student because it is definitely a great place to get started and it can open so many doors for you.
Big dreams and good grades aren't enough to get into college. There are actual steps you need to take. Finding someone who can help is the first and most important. For the next steps, go to knowhowtogo.org.
Watching Metro Talk, I'm Kent Scheffel. Jim Schrader and Sam Stemmer here. Sam, Governor Quinn has rewritten a piece of legislation that was going to regulate ammunition purchases. The governor is now proposing that we have a ban on assault weapons. He's wanting to write that in as part of his amendatory veto. Is it time for a ban on assault weapons in Illinois?
Well, if it is, and that's quite a debate. But if it is, it ought to be debated by the legislature, and it shouldn't be written in by the governor. I understand and I support the use of the amendatory veto. The amendatory veto ought to be used only to take something out, not to put something that was never intended to be part of the bill in. So, on that front, Quinn's way out of bounds and needs to have his hand slapped. And I suspect if he goes forward with it, somebody will end up trying to take it to court, based on infringement of Second Amendment rights, without any debate in the legislature at all. So if in the state of Illinois it's deemed that we need to have a debate as to whether to ban assault weapons, and of course that starts with first debating what do you mean by assault weapon. You have to define what that term means because it's not a technical term. What you think might be an assault weapon, Jim may think is not an assault weapon. So if we're going to have that debate, we'll have it in the legislature so that people all throughout the state are represented, and we can have that discussion, and the people can see what's going on in the light of day. I, for one, am someone who thinks that the Second Amendment should be interpreted very, very literally. In other words, the Founding Fathers, the Bill of Rights says that we each have a right to bear arms, and I don't think we need to start parsing that. And quite frankly, my interpretation, if you go back and read, some of the writings of the Founding Fathers, the reason they wanted to guarantee the right for each individual to arm themselves is because they didn't want a government to turn its weapons on the citizens and the citizens not be able to defend themselves. And I think an argument can be made that the government has access to assault weapons, and if the citizens at some point in time might need to defend themselves, they ought to have access to those weapons as well. I know that's a controversial debate, and I have some questions in my own mind, but I don't think it's something that Governor Quinn needs to write into a bill that was never intended to be part of that bill, as what I think is an unsound use of the amendatory veto.
Jim, do we need an assault weapons ban? The governor has made that part of an amendatory veto to a bill that dealt with ammunition purchases.
Well, let's go back to the first bill, and it was proposed by Senator Luckerfield. The way it stands right now, and I am a gun owner, I carry a FOID card, I'm a member of the NRA. I can purchase ammunition by mail order from any business outside of the state of Illinois. I can order from a gun store in Branson. I can order ammunition. I can order ammunition from a Cabela's store, and they will ship it to my house UPS. Signed, sealed, and delivered. But I can't order ammunition from any business in the state of Illinois, inside the state. So if I wanted to order a case of shotgun shells to be able to shoot trap and have it delivered UPS from an Illinois-based firearms dealer or ammunition dealer, I can't do that. If you can wrap your mind around that logic, then you're smarter than I am. It's okay to transport the ammunition across state lines, but not intrastate. So Senator Luckerfield, at the coaxing of a lot of these ammunitions and arms dealers, said, well, why not be fair about this? Why not allow people from Southern Illinois to order ammunition from Discount House in Jerseyville, UPS, and deliver it to their homes, instead of making them order it out of Paducah or out of Cape Girardeau? Sound bill. Seems to make sense to me. It seems to me that you would want to keep that tax money inside the state. On the heels of the massacre in Aurora, Colorado, our governor, who never missed a chance to issue a press release and call together a news conference, said he was going to utilize his amendatory veto to write in basically the banning of assault arms or assault weapons in this bill that dealt with the sale of ammunition. Again, I don't know how you connect the two, but somehow or another he did. He basically gutted the heart of the bill, which is what all of these dealers wanted, what Senator Luchtefeld wanted, what the House had already endorsed, what the Senate had already endorsed. He gutted that by saying, no, we're going to ban assault weapons, which again, as Sam pointed out, I don't know what that is. If I hit you in the back of the head with a brick, I have assaulted you with a weapon, so I guess we should ban bricks. An assault type weapon, as they call it, is a semi-automatic that appears to be something that would be used by the military or the police. Huh? I don't understand that either. By the state's own research, or by an organization that is anti-gun, actually, by their own research, they've stated that minute number of crimes, gun crimes, are ever performed using one of these assault-type weapons. As Sam and I talked about on the radio on Friday morning, you know, these gangbangers aren't necessarily running around with assault weapons. They're wanting pistols and something that's easily concealed, not something that is this long with a stock on it. The bill is going to fail. Now, the House and the Senate has to go back and try to redraw this ammunitions bill to please business owners in the state of Illinois to undo what the governor did with his amendatory veto. I haven't heard of any of the numerous murders that there are in Chicago and East St. Louis being performed with an assault type weapon. We have sufficient gun laws on our books in the state of Illinois. Let's enforce them. Instead of closing prisons, if you commit a crime and you have a handgun on your person and threaten somebody with it, whether or not you fire it, mandatory sentencing, you go away. You want to thin the herd? You want to reduce the number of gun crimes? Then anybody that commits a gun crime automatically goes to jail. No plea bargain. Do not pass go. Do not get out of jail free.
We need to take a break. We've got more Metro Talk coming up.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Lewis and Clark Minute. Today we're going to be talking with Michelle Singley about the dental hygiene program.
Dental hygiene students learn a variety of treatment skills when they're enrolled in the program at Lewis and Clark. For example, students learn to take a thorough medical history, to perform a head and neck assessment, including an oral cancer screening, and to assess the gum tissue, teeth, and bone of their patients. The students also take dental x-rays, perform dental cleanings, place dental sealants to prevent cavities, and treat the patient's teeth with fluoride or fluoride varnish. Dental hygiene students also teach others to take good care of their teeth with oral hygiene aids such as brush and floss. Our Gina the giraffe puppet is one of the students' favorites. We take her out to the schools to teach the kids good oral habits. For more information about the dental hygiene program, call us at 468-4413 and you can meet Gina.
This has been your Lewis and Clark Minute.
I'm starving. What's for breakfast?
Guten Tag!
Johannes, Franz!
I bring you arts-enriched Raisinblams, fortified with increased test scores and creative problem-solving skills.
It's good!
And good for you.
Bobby? Susie?
Don't worry, that's just the power of the arts!
Feed your kids the arts. For 10 simple ways to learn how, visit AmericansForTheArts.org.
You're watching Metro Talk. I'm Kent Shevel. Jim Schrader and Sam Stemmer here. Jim, Governor Quinn has signed legislation that puts more restrictions on home loans. Were we in a situation where we needed tighter home loan regulations?
I would say in some cases, yes, probably. If you just look at the number of foreclosures that have gone on across the country, people obviously got in over their heads. People got into situations, some of their own making, some not of their own making, where they could no longer service their mortgage. Either they got into a home that they didn't think they would really be able to afford right now, but they figured that their real estate would appreciate as it had been doing for the last 15 or 20 years. Then all of a sudden they'd be in better shape. They would get continued salary raises at work, and they'd get promotions, and they'd be able to make this house payment, no sweat. Then people start getting laid off. They have to make salary concessions. They get their wage cut. They get laid off, and all of a sudden can't make their mortgage. We also had some less than scrupulous ways of lending where, with virtually nothing down, you could buy a house that you maybe could afford or maybe not could afford. You could refi to up to like 125% of the value of the home, and as long as the bank was still getting paid, that was cool. I don't think that the government should necessarily be in the home loan business, though we are, with VA loans and the Freddie Macs and the Fannie Maes, and we are in the loan business. But I think sometimes the government has to step in just to protect the consumer from their either lack of appreciation or lack of knowledge or some less than scrupulous lenders.
Sam, the governor has signed new home loan legislation. Did we need tougher laws on the home loans?
Well, yeah, we did, but quite some time ago. It's almost like locking the barn after the horse is already out. So I suspect it probably made some sense to pass and sign this legislation, but sometimes these things have unintended consequences as well. The home sales are flat or still depressed. Home values are flat and depressed, even though home mortgage interest rates are at levels that none of us could have ever imagined. Sometimes even for people who probably should qualify for mortgages, they find it difficult to get to them because everything's been tightened up so much because of the problems that occurred 4 and 5 years ago. And those problems really were created, in my view, a lot by Congress, by the U.S. Congress. And this concept that everybody should have access to the American dream, and they were handing mortgages out to, if you had a pulse, you could get a mortgage. Well, my fear is that we're gonna swing the pendulum too far the other way, and our economy is somewhat dependent upon getting home sales up and going. So my fear is that the governor and the Illinois legislature has acted too late and hopefully not acted too forcefully to correct a problem that I think was already being corrected. So we probably needed some action, but this might be, in this case, too much too late.
Jim, former Governor Ryan requested an early release from prison. That request was denied.
Good.
Okay, that answers that question.
You did the crime, you were convicted, do the time. Especially in a state that's known for kind of slapping high-profile politicians on the wrist and saying that was a bad boy, don't do that anymore. I understand the former governor is 78 years old, but he was sentenced. If I was sentenced, I suspect that I would have to serve my full sentence, and I think he should too.
Sam, should the governor get out early? Former governor?
Well, the appeal that his lawyers brought forward was due to the fact that there's been a change, a nuance in the law that was brought about by a Supreme Court decision. And so his attorneys, Ryan's attorneys, were hoping that in the appeal that, you know, it would be seen that perhaps he fell under this change in the law, and the court said no, he didn't. That the jury was quite clear; they believed he took a bribe, and that he ought to stay in prison. George Ryan was a despicable man, is a despicable man. I had the opportunity to rub elbows with him on more than one occasion, and he was a first-class jerk, on top of being a crook. And as far as I'm concerned, I hope he spends every last minute there. I think he got a break when they let him sneak out of prison on a couple of occasions to go visit his dying wife. I don't, if it had been Jim or me, we wouldn't have gotten that accommodation. So he's already gotten more breaks than the average Joe would get. And, he violated the public trust. He thought he was bigger than the law. And now I think, he can spend every last minute in prison and serve out the entirety of his sentence, which I think he's only got about a year and a half left.
About a year.
About a year. So, I think it was originally a 6.5 year sentence. He's got a year left. I hope they're running a little late the day that he's supposed to get out, and he has to spend an extra couple hours just waiting to walk out the gate.
There are a lot of prisoners that are incarcerated that were they being tried today, where the laws have changed somewhat, the penalty would not be near as stiff as what they were sentenced to. There have been a lot of prisoners that served their full amount of time and got released, and later on the law changed and they probably wouldn't have served any time at all. George Ryan was sentenced under the law as it stood then. You don't go back and renegotiate after the law changes. Think of the number of people that are serving for marijuana violations in prison, and now in many jurisdictions that would be a misdemeanor, and they served prison sentences. You don't change.
Now, he's supposed to be released in mid-2013. Does it make sense to hang on to him for another 8 months, 10 months, whatever it is?
Absolutely. Why not? Again, if we would others, then why not him?
That's going to do it for this round of Metro Talk. Thanks for being with us. Jim Schrader, the publisher of The Telegraph, has been here, along with Sam Stem, the general manager of WBGZ. I'm Kent Scheffel. We'll see you next time.